Opposed, nay. Motion carried. There won't be any actions, just information. Is this on? Okay, we're out of executive session. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Invocation by Salvation Army.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you as leaders and concerned citizens of this great city of Mitchell. Lord, we come to you with different backgrounds, maybe even some different agendas here tonight, but we recognize this is not an easy time to be leaders of a city. However, we also recognize that you have gifted each council member and the mayor here tonight to be leaders of our community. We thank you for that, Father. We thank you for the tough decisions these council members and our mayor have made this past year. We ask you to continue to guide the decisions they'll make here tonight and days to come. Lord, we ask for your wisdom, clear minds, discerning hearts. We ask this place be filled with your spirit of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. We ask all this in the name of our precious Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything you wish to remove? Okay, I'm going to entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address these items? Roll call, please.
Sharp. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Savers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address mayor and members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Is there anybody who wishes to address council? Council have anything you want to say? I will point out, we had 2 police officers that kind of got involved in a viral incident at the school board. I thought they acted very professional. It was Nico Arnold and Tyler Urban. I got the names right, Mr. Coster. I thank them for the professionalism they showed. I know it wasn't an easy situation, and they did the best they could given the circumstance. So I want to point that out. Anybody else wish to address council or say anything? Okay, Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for City Council to recess to this Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action for Randy and Tammy Young, 522 North Duff Street. Randy and Tammy Young apply for conditional use permit to operate a family residential child care center, 522 North Duff Street, legally described as Lot 4, Block 13, Raleigh, 2nd Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R4, high density. Mr. Putnam.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The Planning Commission held a hearing on this request and did recommend approval with 2 conditions. One, that the permit is not transferable, and then 2, if the business ceases to operate for a period of 6 months or longer, then a new permit would be required. She has passed a fire inspection already, so.
Move to approve with conditions.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Reconvene the City Council, entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn the City Council to reconvene in regular session. Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mrs. Charts. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Excuse me. Action to reallocate funds to complete 2 storm sewer outfall washout repairs. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, the City of Mitchell this summer discovered 2 stormwater outlet washouts adjacent to Dry Run Creek. during our yearly outfall inspections. I do have attached pictures showing those washouts. They are relatively bad, and they need to be fixed yet this year. Quotes were requested from 3 underground contractors and from 2 material suppliers. Low cost for washout area 1, which is just south of Hitchcock Park, was Schoenfelder Construction for $10,100, and from the supplier was Forterra Pipe and Precast for $13,483.38. Washout 2, which is located just east of the Foster Street Bridge. The low cost from our underground contractor was Vanderpool Dragline for a cost of $12,134, and from the material supplier of Semcast Pipe and Precast for $19,309.34. For each one, there will be additional costs associated with erosion control, and then additional storm sewer items such as castings and those types of things, which will be supplied by the city. Total cost for washout 1 is estimated at $30,000, and we recommend approving to Schoenfelder Construction and Forterra Pipe and Precast at the total dollars that I read earlier. And for washout 2, for a total estimated cost of $38,000, recommending approval to Vanderpool Dragline and Semcast Pipe and Precast at the amounts I read earlier as well. We are requesting contingency funds. There is also a line item in the budget that we could take this cost from the Loma Linda area. We did have a stormwater drainage project that we wanted to do this year, but are unable to with some circumstances. SPN is working on a drainage plan for that area, so we hope to alleviate those issues in the near future as part of that study. But that account does have the funds available in order to fund this project.
Just to correct one thing on there, we discussed this morning, and we are not going to use contingency funds. It will either come out of that stormwater project fund, or we'll do a supplement of storm funds that we already have on hand. We don't want to use 2021 contingent, or 2020 contingency.
Just out of curiosity, was there an event that made us discover these washouts?
So obviously we had the big rains last year, which could have contributed. It could have happened any time between then and this summer. But yeah, like I said, we found them this year on our yearly outfall inspections. And we're lucky that it didn't affect anything else.
I think they're an area that they really didn't realize we had outfalls in until.
We knew, it's just with the big rains that we had last year, we weren't able to get to everything. We looked at, the areas that needed attention right away.
And they're impressive washouts. I'm surprised that there wasn't some big event that created the awareness.
There very well could have been. It's just I don't know which event that would be.
I just want to make sure, so we are going to take it from the Loma Linda funds, and then what will we do to have enough funds for the Loma Linda project next year?
So right now, there's not currently a project identified. SPN is working on a drainage study for that area to identify possible outlets for that area.
Actually, everything that we do in the stormwater department fund comes out of funds that are specifically for stormwater, that comes out of the sewer account that we collect for stormwater purposes. We have money sitting designated in reserves to fund those projects that we use every year to fund what we're doing in that departmental budget.
So we'll just switch out this for that, and then take a look at what Loma Linda comes back next year out of stormwater.
Yep, and if there isn't sufficient this year, then you'll see a supplemental appropriation out of those designated reserves for stormwater projects.
How much money was in Loma Linda?
There was $86,514. And we have already taken $15,500 out of there that we did a Norway storm sewer extension.
Right. And we will just continue to watch that entire departmental budget, and any additional that'll be needed for the departmental budget. At the end of the year, we would do a supplement out of those stormwater reserves.
Since my hearing was real good, and I seconded Dan's question, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Savers,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve amendment number 1 to SPN and Associates for Kibbe Ditch Improvements Phase 1 Staking Project 2018-31. Are you speaking to this, Mr. Schrader?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, Council, this is a current contract that the city is in with SPN. They were approved on December 18th of 2017 for design services and construction staking for a Kibbe Ditch project. From that, there was a project determined from Kibbe Ditch to south of Interstate 90, just west of Ullman. So the contract is already in hand. It's just back in 2017, since 18 and 19 were so wet, the county was unable to complete those repairs, and we're just bringing SPN's contract up to their current hourly rates. There is $8,000 set aside for this, which was the original amount. The amendment would increase it by $900, which brings us above the $8,000. And this is an hourly contract, so if it were to come in under $8,000, we wouldn't need the contingency funds, but if we do, we will need those funds.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Barrington.
I just need to clarify one item. Again, this is a storm sewer project, and so if it's in that departmental budget, we would not use contingency. We would take it out of designated reserves for storm sewer.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience wishes to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action on Resolution R 2020-63, collection of special assessment for construction projects in 2019. Mr. Johnson.
At this time, we'll hold our public hearing for our special assessment collections. These are comprised of new sidewalk areas around town, which were North Main from the Palace Mall all the way up to the bypass. There were West 7th from Minnesota over to Edgerton, West 8th from Minnesota over to Edgerton, and hazardous sidewalk areas all over town. And we also had miscellaneous areas around town. The miscellaneous areas were different areas that people called us and asked us to have their sidewalk replaced and or due to utility cutouts, repairs that needed to have curb and or sidewalk replaced. All of the sidewalk charges, meaning new, hazardous, and miscellaneous locations, those will be set up on a 5-year repayment plan at a percentage rate of 8%. If this is approved tonight, then starting tomorrow, the finance office will send out letters, and the people will have 30 days to pay it interest-free for that time. After that 30 days, then it'll start going at 8% interest. At the end of October, it would go to the county to get added to their property taxes, and it'll come out of the first half of their tax payments for next year. All this work was work that was done in 2019. So what we'll do is we'll start off and ask if there's anyone here that's got any questions on any of their on any of their assessments. They were all sent out letters about the final amounts, and we have had a number of people call and ask questions, people that have paid and different things like that. So is there anyone here that has a question about their, about their collection amount for any of the sidewalks? Okay, if you want to come up.
First, there was,
State your name, please.
oh, I'm Crystal Frank.
Okay.
Crystal Frank.
Thank you.
It was a 50-foot, it's a 50-foot lot. There's 26 feet of what do they call it? Up to code sidewalk across the front. So they placed 24. The price on that seems a little bit pricey to me. And the driveway is flaking off and cracking. And they've been called several times and they just, oh, you put salt on it, whatever. I know we waited more than what we were told, to let the cement cure before you drove on it or anything.
So part of what you replaced is flaking, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I got some pictures of the flaking and the cracks. And that the price was just for 24 running feet of sidewalk. I know you buy cement by the square foot. Cubic yard. But it's like, however wide the sidewalk is, and it's like, it'd be 24 feet that the city replaced.
I think, didn't your letter give you the option to do it on your own, though? I believe in the letter, you're allowed to do it on your own if you wish to do that.
Yeah.
Or if you let it go, the city will take care of it when they come through with their crews.
Okay.
So you had the option to get your own contractor.
Okay. But that still mean I gotta pay for crack cement and flaking that the city did? I mean, I'm gonna have to pay for it one way or the other.
Is there a warranty of any kind on that, Mr. Johnson?
It'd just be a year.
1 year? And this is beyond the year?
I mean,
Yeah.
I know the city's been notified.
So is what we'll do is we'll grab, we will go take a look at it tomorrow.
Okay,
And,
because I know somebody came out and said, oh, you threw salt on it, that's why it's flaking. Why is it cracking? Why is it?
Well, concrete cracks, I mean, there's two kinds of concrete, that is cracked and that's about to crack. It's the unfortunate part of concrete, but we will look at it and check out the surface and see what we can figure out, and if there's a warranty issue that we can have the contractor replace it, we will.
Okay, and the price that from the bill I received is what it is?
That is the price you're going to get charged, yes.
All right. You're moving past me.
And Terry, this was bid, and was that included into the letters?
Yeah.
The price? We put an estimate in, and then
Right.
we always try to estimate a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Generally, it comes in a little bit lower.
Right.
But yet, it's included in the letter, as the mayor said, that you can go ahead and hire your own contractor as long as it's the specs.
That is correct. And some of these letters went out probably a couple years ago, and at that time we had some lower pricing that what we had actually estimated based off bid prices. But when we bid this work that got done, it actually came out a little bit higher than what I had estimated. And it's just the nature of the game, and these contractors are moving from small areas in town to a bigger area, like a 25-foot section, like Crystal kind of mentioned, or a bigger section. And sometimes, and we have to work off those bid prices that we get. And of course, they have the option of hiring somebody else, but a lot of contractors don't want to get involved in these little small areas. But we will take a look at this area and see if there's anything that the contractor should have done a little bit different, and talk to her to see if there's anything we could do.
So then my other question is everybody gets charged the same amount per running?
Correct.
Okay.
It's all based off of square footage, so it's a square foot price that we get. I think for the hazardous, it was $5.50 a square foot for replacement, and the removal of the concrete was $2 a square foot, so. All right, is there anybody else that's got a question about their sidewalk assessment? Okay, with that, we'll go into nuisance. So nuisance would be a little bit different. These would be all nuisances that were done in 2019, and these would just be a 1 year, one payment. So these people would, if they don't pay in the next 30 days, they would have just next year in order to pay it, and it'll go on their taxes. Is there anybody here for a nuisance charge? Okay. With that, council, do you have any questions before we move into the resolution?
And curiosity, what was the city's cost portion of this for curb and gutter and right-of-way and landscaping?
So, say that again.
What was the city, this is the assessed cost for all of this
Right.
here. What was the city's cost?
So, so the city's cost has nothing in, for hazardous or miscellaneous areas. The city's cost for the new sidewalk, I could get those numbers to Kyle. He could forward them out, but I don't have those with me at this time. All right, anything else? Okay, with that, you can move into the resolution.
Yeah.
Terry, have we done the hazardous sidewalk for this year?
We are working on hazardous sidewalk locations for
I know somebody
2020.
that is waiting for them.
Yeah, we have a contractor has a number of areas that they're working on, and so then we're trying to work it in with projects that he has lined up and with projects that we have going on, so.
Do you think we'll be able to get to all of them yet this fall?
We should be able to.
Okay.
It all depends on if fall doesn't turn like it's testing us right now, so. All right.
All right, we'll entertain a motion for the resolution.
Move approval of resolution R 2020-63.
Motion by Mrs. Charles. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? One more time, anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on resolution R 2020-64, dissolving tax increment district 22. Ms. Elwin, are you speaking to this?
Yep. Mayor and council, the resolution in your packet would effectively dissolve or take it back to its status before the TIF was created for all the parcels that are shown on the map above that have the number 22 on them. So this was what we referred to as the Clockworks TIF, or the Custom Cycles TIF, I think is what we called it, actually. Originally, the TIF was created as a way to fund those stormwater improvements down in the area. We started with a deeper dive drainage study that let us look at what the alternatives were. Originally, we were looking at a project that was going to be closer to $1.6 million for a project cost. And as you are all well aware, we ended up with a project that's closer to $7 million. The difference being that it actually improves the storm drainage area instead of just creating a temporary resolution. So now that we have secured, Public Works secured the $2.3 million EDA grant, and we have our financing approved through the SRF loan for the balance, we no longer have a need for the TIF, and we can go forward with dissolving the TIF. I was asked if you can use the TIF to pay off the SRF loan. You can't, because we're doing that as a surcharge project so that it doesn't go against the city's debt capacity. So you have to use the surcharge revenue that you're receiving to pay off the debt on that project. So if there's any other questions, I can certainly answer it, but that should be at least a good overview. I was asked, I guess I did get one other question this weekend, whether the business owners pay an assessment for this project. They don't. It's just like what we were going to do with the TIF, except for we're using SRF financing and we're using the EDA grant that the city received.
Motion to dissolve.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Excuse me, motion carried. Action on resolution R 2020-65, authorizing nuisance abatement at 124 East First Avenue. Mr. Johnson?
This has been another one of the long-standing nuisances that we've been dealing with here in the downtown area. This one's located at 124 East First, commonly known as the old Sun Gold Building on First and Waller. The property has changed hands a couple of times over the last year. Currently owned by Santos. Sorry, I don't have the names pulled up here. I believe it's Santos and Maria. In any event, the current property owner was initially looking to redevelop. I think learned that that was not going to be really possible and was looking into demolition, but the numbers that they were receiving were pretty high. Given that the city still needs to have this situation taken care of, and the fact that it's still a pretty significant life safety issue, as you can kind of see clicking through some of these pictures, the damage inside the building is pretty extensive, and the deterioration is significant. Demolition does appear to be the best option at this point. The city believes that it can do the project ourselves for significantly less than the quotes that the property owner was receiving. Yeah, hang on, just right here. Yeah, this is just one of the better examples here. This would be the kind of the front lobby area of the building. You can see there's kind of a reddish yellow pillar there in the middle. That area of actually the floor and the ceiling is probably sunk about 2.5 to 3 feet. There's significant damage in the basement. Actually, the basement's inaccessible at this point due to the stairs collapsing. But the staff does believe that they're going to be able to perform the demolition. They'll be able to detach it from the neighboring structures and get it all backfilled and be able to do that. Their most recent cost after doing a walkthrough last week, it went up a little bit. They still think it'll be probably in the $25,000 range. And the intent at this point would be to assess those costs via special assessment and follow that process. It is also in the downtown historic district, so we'll have some hoops to jump through on that side of things as well. But hopefully we'd be able to start moving forward here within the next month or so on getting it torn down. I believe the property owner is here if they have anything that they'd like to add. Otherwise, I'll open it up for questions. Doesn't look like they have anything they want to add.
Do you have anything you want to add about the building, your building? Okay, any other questions? Come up. You have to come up to the front. To the microphone, please, and state your name so that people on the internet know who we're.
I'm here to translate for him. My name is Eva Garcia, and this is ¿cómo se llama? Santos.
Okay.
The question he has is, what are his options of demolishing it? Exactamente.
Mm-hmm.
Can you repeat what you were saying about demolishing it?
Yeah, so if the city does the demolition, we believe that our costs are going to be about $25,000.
Okay, dice que si se va a hacer la demolición va a ser como el precio de $25,000. Go ahead.
And that's after we did the walkthrough last week. We found that there was going to be some additional work. We told him before it was going to be about $15,000, but there's going to be some extra work in having to cut the structure so it doesn't affect the building next door.
Okay, dice que pues le habían dicho hasta 15, pero como van a hacer más cosas van a ser como 25.
You would have the option to get your own contractor and do your own demolition if you prefer,
que usted tiene
and
la
pay
opción
them.
de agarrar un contratista con usted de su parte para leer. How long is the option out?
Can you lean into the mic?
How long is his option out there to decide to that?
You mean other than demolition?
Yeah. Is it already?
I guess we're not, we haven't heard any proposal for anything else.
Okay.
There's significant structural issues with the building, but if he had a proposal, we could certainly hear that, but we haven't heard any proposal for renovation.
Dice que como usted no ha dado ni una propuesta, pues no saben qué tomar, qué decisión.
La otra es si yo puedo pagar en pago al Estado.
His other question is if he would be able to pay in payments to the state, to the county?
Yes, so if it gets assessed, Terry's probably more familiar with it, but I think they can break it out over a number of years, and it's just paid on his tax roll.
Okay, entonces lo van a, si está posible eso y que lo van a en pagos de cada vez que paga taxes.
10 years, 10% interest.
8% interest.
Sorry, 8.
Which one?
No podemos hacer eso.
Okay, he said that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And Justin, to confirm the timing approximately, I mean, it has to go to the historical review, I would take it.
Right, yeah, so if there's additional procedures that we have to go through, depends on what SHPO comes back and tells us, but depending on how quickly we get the responses and everything, we might have something to act on at the next meeting or the meeting after that. It should be within the next month and a half that they should be able to proceed with the project.
And we'd try to do that as soon as possible this year.
Yes, we'd still want to proceed as soon as we'd be able to.
I think their intent is to try and get to it by the end of October for demolition.
October, early November, I think, is probably pretty realistic.
Does the historical, do they move fairly quickly on this type of stuff, or do they drag their feet?
I think they'll probably be pretty quick to get an answer back to us. It's probably one of those things where their hands are going to be tied, and they're going to have to make a certain finding, and then we'll have to make our decision from that point. But I think they'll probably see the situation for what it is, and that there's really not much you can do to save the building.
Okay. Anything else? We'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of 2020-65 resolution.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2020-66, vacation of the right-of-way described as that strip of land 20 feet wide by 150 east and west along the north edge of said vacated F Avenue, also known as Spur Avenue, adjacent to Lot 7, Block 19, Van Epps First Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Mr. Putnam.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a vacation of a, it's not really an alley, it's more of a leftover of a portion of the F Street. Can I get you to put the aerial, please? Thank you. Okay, you can kind of see where the yellow mark is, the east-west line. That's the area that was there. Originally, what would happen, and there's a map on there too, but you probably saw where it's an F Street or a First Street. What happened in that time, they retained, there you go. See, they vacated, it was actually a street that was vacated. However, what was retained was a 20-foot strip because the city has a sanitary sewer in there, and so that's where it was. But subsequently, then it was vacated on the east side, so really the only thing that's still a public right-of-way, so to speak, is the area that goes east and west and the area that goes north and south. Just to get your bearing straight, that's where GT Auto Body is, that's why I marked it there, just so that you can kind of see, and there's ZOS would be on the corner where 100, so as you can see. So Now, the petitioner is Greg and Marge Tilburg, who happen to be on both sides. As you can kind of see, there's a manufactured house on the north side, and there's also a manufactured house. So they own both sides. That's why there's only the one petition, is because they're the sole owner up here. So that's what's there. If you do approve this, there is language in the resolution that we would retain the easement and so forth, so that we would still have access to that, so there would be no construction over on top of that easement. So the Planning Commission did discuss this at their last meeting, even though, like I said, vacations aren't statutorily required, but it's been our practice to get their opinion. And on a 6-to-1 vote, they do not recommend approval. Also, you probably noticed some photos in the packet, too, that the mayor had taken of this area. So I'll try to answer any questions that you may have. There may be some other people who wish to comment about this as well. Again, it's just the yellow part is what's before you.
Is there anyone here that wants to speak to that?
My name's Robert Ball. I own them 2 houses right there that are on,
You own both of those houses?
yeah. I
Because
own-
as of 2 o'clock today, you only own one of them.
Well, I paid for both of them, so.
You're not on the title of the corner house, so
No.
if you
that-
would, please bring in the,
Yeah, I
agreements.
bought that from Barry Sellen, and it was done by Chris Snipes, so why it isn't, I don't
Well,
know.
the courthouse shows that it's still owned by somebody other than you.
Okay, well, I
Okay,
can do that
so-
for you, so.
okay.
I can bring you the council check or whatever you need, but anyway, when they did all that thing, I believe it was like 1953. I'm not positive to the exact date. The gentleman checked on it for me, but that's why they didn't vacate it at that time, because the 2 people that owned them houses then didn't want to vacate it. There's no access to the backyard if you do that.
There would be access off of Havens. There would have to be a curb break put in there, but you could access the alley from the south off Havens.
Yeah, down that 12-feet bank, yeah, you could. But I checked all that out before I bought it. Mr. Tilburg, the only reason he came to your attention was because he thought he owned it for all that time, is nobody went through the trouble of paying for a survey. And then when I did, he was upset about it, but it is what it is. If that would have been closed at that time, I wouldn't have never bought it. I wouldn't have bought something you couldn't access the back of the property. That wouldn't make any sense. So that's kind of where we are on it. I'm not going to use it a lot, but the renter wants to drive in and out of there. Mr. Tilburg's easy enough to get along with. Me and Greg get along fine, but it's later on down the road after I'm gone or he's gone. It's the next group. That's the problem, so I just don't see prolonging the inevitable, you know. But that's kind of where we are on the thing.
Okay?
I just want to make sure, so, can I go up here? Okay, so you're opposed to vacating this because you have people that go here and then here to access the back of these lots.
Yeah.
And going from here, I know this is a, I mean,
Right.
it's just whatever, this just goes straight downhill here.
Right, when I contacted
There's a
them,
hill there.
Yeah.
when I asked
It is an access.
We could put an access there.
yeah,
So you have people that go this direction right now.
and doesn't that Haven Street, isn't that controlled by the state of South Dakota?
But we have other alleys down it, Bill.
Okay.
It could be an access.
Yeah, because when I asked him, I asked the guy at the state that before we went through all this, and he said it was pretty unlikely that they would want to do it. He didn't say they wouldn't do it, but want to do it, so. But yeah, now, like I say, and me and Mr. Tilburg get along. He's got barricades across there now and all fenced off, so he's pretty content on what it is. But it'd be difficult to get to the backside of the house. You know, they're both have lower levels with access out the bottom floor of them also. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address it? Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'm going to make a motion to vacate.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Allen.
More discussion, I'll second.
Yeah, we have a motion, or second by Mr. Barrington. Okay, further discussion.
Would it be safe to say, Neil, that new developments that we're putting in generally do not have alleys?
Typically, I haven't, in my time, they haven't. They've all usually have an easement of some sort, usually a utility, for utilities. I don't think I recall in my
We
time,
have-
20-some years, we've had a new development.
We have
with an
not had
alley.
any alleys in any new developments, no. For the time I sat on the Planning and Zoning Commission, there were no alleys included in any development.
Okay, so theoretically, access would just be on the person's property then?
Yeah.
To get that.
Mm-hmm.
Neil, why did the planning commission vote to deny it?
They just didn't feel
No
it was,
reason?
well, they just didn't feel it was appropriate, I guess. And so it was 6-1.
And the recommendation was that if they could get a DOT
Correct.
approval for a curb breakout for the alley going off Haven Street.
Yeah, just true, if there was such a access would come through, right.
That's what the recommendation
Yep.
So if you're telling me if I
Come up to the speaker.
if I sell the inside house and still own the outside house, I gotta let that guy drive across my lawn to get to his property?
No, there's an alley back there.
How are you gonna access the alley?
Well, Mr. Croce, you may have to get a curb access put in there.
Well, if you're willing to do that, hey, I don't have a problem with it. I just thought it would be cost effective for the city, that, you know, less money just to leave it the way it is, but whatever you decide, I'm easy to get along with. I just wanna go to the back of those two houses, that's all I'd like to do.
Okay.
And not all the time, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I just wanna drive in there, mow the lawn, and be done with it. I totally understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Kyle, could you check into that breakout for us, please?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, further discussion?
Well, it sounds like we're pretty confident that a breakout would be doable since they've been done in other places, in several other places along Havens. That's what I'm understanding, is that right?
Yes, there's alleys that go between, as you go west of Minnesota, just west of Minnesota, there's an alley that goes down.
And those were all-
Accesses Ron's Bicycle Shop as well as.
And
to the
those were
north,
all
so
approved by the DOT?
Those are all in there. This is a right-of-way that was approved prior to any work being done
Right.
when DOT built the street, so.
Right.
It's an access that, I don't know how they would deny us access to our own access. Right. We have them all along there, so shouldn't be a big deal.
Robert Ball again. Didn't you also recommended not to close it, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. At the planning commission, I did recommend
Yep.
not vacating.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So, I mean, if you're willing, you know, if we're sure that we can get an access to it, you know, I don't have a problem with it. But I would sure like to know for sure before you close it that we can get an access to it. That's all I'm asking. You know, I'd hate to see you close it and then I can't get an access, because if that case, then I'm sure we'll be back to a different kind of court.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, do you think you can find out in the next couple of weeks if we can get that?
Sure.
Yes, we can contact the DOT for a curb cutout.
Then I'd like to amend the motion that we table this till our first meeting in October, right? Can I amend that motion? Is that what I need to do?
Okay, Mr. Johnson, what is our procedure here? It's up to, there's a motion on the table.
Yep.
We
You had
can
a
vote on
motion and a
that, and
second.
if that doesn't pass, we can look at something else, correct? Okay, so we have a motion to approve the vacation and a second by Mr. Barrington. Is there any further discussion relative to that? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Chark.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Savers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Mr. Croce, please look into that right away in the morning.
Yes, sir.
Action to approve resolution R 2020-67, a plat of lots 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12, 10, 11, and 12, Block 2 MLC addition, a subdivision of lots 4B, Block 4B, Block 4, Morning View addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Mr. Putnam.
Thank you, Mayor. This plat was presented to the Planning Commission at their last regular meeting and did recommend approval. You may recall that about a month or two ago that you had the number of the lots on the north side. This is basically the south side. So, of the molar, off of Norway and so forth, so.
Okay.
Move approval of 2020-67.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve resolution R 2020-68, a plat of the lift station track 1, a subdivision of irregular track number 3 in the southwest quarter, section 32, township 104 north, range 60 west of the 5th prime meridian, Davis County, South Dakota. Mr.
Again,
Putnam.
thank you, Mayor. Again, this plat was presented to the Planning Commission at their meeting, and they did recommend approval. This is, as you probably have talked about before, for the new lift station that's going out there. So this is identifying the property that will be owned by the city. That's why it's being platted off there. So just for a point of order, that since this is not in the city limits, it's still the county has to review the plat as well. But so that's where the location of the new lift station is going to be.
So is this replacing an existing lift station?
No, this, I believe, is a new one. I'll let the engineers deal with this.
It's a new one, but I think it actually replaces the one that's currently there because it's not sized appropriately. It's not sized appropriately.
Joe Schrader, city engineer. That is correct. It is replacing the Daily Drive lift station. Yes.
And is that X exactly where it's going to be located, or approximately? Or?
Approximately. It'll be, I think it's roughly just a little north of that X, and it'll be pushed up into those trees.
Oh, it will be. So it'll be somewhat hidden to
Correct.
the public and to the neighbors?
Correct.
Did we send letters out on this? We don't.
Not as of yet, no.
Okay. I did talk to one of the neighbors, and obviously he knew that was going on because he'd seen the flags, and I don't know, he said he didn't remember receiving a letter, but said could have. But anyway, his only concern was is make for sure that it wasn't real visible, is there kind of a ravine there?
Correct. So it'll be pushed back into the trees. I
Keep
can't
in
remember.
mind, you do need to access it to be able to maintain it as well, though.
Right.
You can't just hide it and forget about it.
There'll be a gravel path back there that our vac trucks can access it. We also have the engineers looking at putting in provisions for smell to make sure there won't be any foul odors. So we're working on that with them as well. Yep.
The path, the one at the corner of Ullman and 23rd, it needs to be replaced, but it's, oh geez, yeah. That house sells every 6 months when summer gets here. But, there's several others out there that you don't notice. You don't even know they're there other than you see the piping above ground, so.
And there's very little noise associated with these
No,
lifts?
no noise.
Correct. No noise.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on resolution R 2020-69, a plat of Lot 35 of Maui's Farms, second edition, a subdivision of southeast quarter of Section 31, Township 104 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian. City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Mr. Putnam.
Mayor and council, this plat was presented to the council as well. You may recall, you just had one just about a couple houses down from this, Lot 31. This is Lot 35. This is kind of pretty much following the master plan out on Maui Drive.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charts. Second. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on resolution R 2020-70, plat of lots 2A and 3 of L. Robinson's first edition subdivision of southerly 936 feet of the easterly 932.2 feet of the southeast quarter, Section 24, Township 104 North, Range 60 West, Prime Meridian, Davidson County, South Dakota. Putnam.
Mayor and council, this plat was presented to the City Planning Commission at the last meeting and recommend approval. This is just outside, it's just within the 3-mile plating jurisdiction that I know Councilman Rice and I have talked about it before, but state law does require anything within 3 miles that the city has to see. However, it is outside our 1-mile zoning jurisdiction, so, but it appears to be what they're doing is they're just kind of subdividing it per family. I think there's a GIS map that you kind of see how it breaks down. Yeah, you can kind of see how it's breaking up by family and so forth. But as you can see, there's footnotes in there about the county. So they do have certain ordinances that when you are issuing building permits, then some of those that they have to be platted. So my guess is that some of that is in compliance with county ordinances. So this is northwest of Mitchell.
Motion by Mrs. Chart. Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Second reading ordinance O 2020-12 supplemental appropriations. This is for the air purification system for the city buildings and the self-contained breathing apparatus. Ms. Owen, you want to speak to it?
I don't have anything to change from the first reading. You'll see the supplemental appropriation only includes the 2 items that were stated. There were some questions at the last meeting about the effectiveness towards viruses and that kind of thing of the system. We did include a copy of the test results on the various pathogens or whatever you want to call it that the system goes against. I know there was one question about Legionnaires and some other ones, so those are listed in there for your review. I also put on your desk this morning, or excuse me, this evening, the status of our current CARES Act funding. Again, this would come out of the money that's been receipted into the general fund so far. I have those listed as a supplemental appropriation from September 8th. So with that and what we're reserving for potential revenue shortfalls 2020 and 2021, there is sufficient funds that we've already received to pay for that supplemental appropriation.
And just a point of clarification. So we're putting both of these in, and that's fine. And then we apply for CARES money to see if it's approved, or these have already been approved as CARES applicable purchases?
Well, we've gotten some indication from the state that they will approve additional CARES Act funds for some of the systems. But until we actually receive it, I'm not counting it as that. We will submit them all and try to get them all reimbursed. But otherwise, we're going to use money we've already received as a reimbursement for payroll expenses.
Oh, and you can do that?
Yeah, because we've already been reimbursed for it, so it's money into our reserves already.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't want to count on having money and then having the state turn it down, so this is just a safer way of going about it. Yep. Yeah.
The state has told us that they feel City Hall and the police, public safety building. Yeah, I thought
It
James
does
Valley would
sound like,
qualify. They did not qualify, but we're
Yeah.
going to try to get it.
yeah, and I'm hoping, there's been some talk that the CDC might revise some of their recommendations, and if they do, we might have a better likelihood of getting it approved too, so.
There might be something that Mrs. Pickett can do as far as
Oh,
her
yeah.
funding to
Yep.
get grant money, right,
Yep.
for James Valley Community Center. So she's looking at that as well.
But we do have every city facility scheduled for the additional plasma air purification system.
And this $200,000 will pay for every facility.
Yeah.
Correct. And then we will seek grant reimbursement through the DOT for Palace Transit portion. And then for public safety and City Hall, we've gotten preliminary approval, but we'll see how that goes.
How quick could this be done if they,
They are ordering the equipment now. It will be in within a month roughly.
so we have for the flu season?
Yes.
That was the hope.
Move approval on second reading ordinance 2020-12.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Charles.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt.
Motion? Second.
Motion by Mr. Sabers. Who made the second over here?
Okay, thank you.
Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this part of it? Roll call, please.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charles.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second reading of ordinance 2020-11, 2021 annual appropriations ordinance. Okay, we heard from a lot of you last time. If you have additional information you wish to present to us, by all means, please do so. We ask that you don't repeat everything you said the first time. So, Ms. Elwine.
Before you start too, Mayor and Council, I'd like to point out that we received some additional online comments today, so I have stapled all of them that you've received. They're on your desk today, too.
Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Mel Olson. I live at 600 West 3rd Avenue, and I served 12 years on the in the South Dakota State Legislature and 9 years on the City Council. I mention that experience because I have literally been where you are. I would urge you tonight to fully fund Mitchell Area Safe House, Dakota Mental Health, Prehistoric Indian Village, and Mitchell Main Street and beyond, and not just at the limited funding that you've been talking about, but at last year's levels. If you've been following the news, you know that the city of Denver, just in the last couple of weeks, is no longer sending out policemen on nonviolent calls. They're sending out mental health professionals and counselors now to do that. And I think we've had a profitable relationship with these two particular organizations, the Mitchell Area Safe House and Dakota Mental Health, over the years, and they've saved us money. Our police, as the mayor pointed out at the beginning of the meeting, are very competent and very skilled, but there are areas where there are people who are more skilled. And I think if you defund these groups, and I realize you're not talking about getting rid of all the money, at least not at this point, and I realize that they're not talking about going out of business. But these costs are going to fall to you because the problems of mental health and domestic abuse are not going to go away. And so maybe, again, not tomorrow, not next week, next month, maybe you'll be in the position that Denver's in, and now you're hiring your own mental health professionals. Or you're having police officers put in overtime. Or you're having overtime due to transportation of people down to Yankton for services or Sioux Falls for services or whatever. I think these organizations save you money, and I think it would be penny wise and pound foolish to defund them. I'd like to turn to the Prehistoric Indian Village for a second. You know, I sat on the city council, and I would have sidebars with my seatmates, and sometimes people would come up here and present, and you would think maybe their worst enemy was presenting because they were really not doing their position much good. The Prehistoric Indian Village was never one of those groups. They've done an excellent job of going out and getting outside funding. They bring people to town. Now, obviously, not lots of people are interested in archaeology, but I can tell you, after working at the Corn Palace, lots of people are interested in the Native American experience, and once they get here, they're interested in going out there. They've had a profitable relationship with, I believe it's Exeter College. They bring a couple of dozen young people here, and that generates some money. They generate sales tax to their gift shops and the tourists visiting and those kinds of things. And you heard Cindy talk last time that they need your funding in order to leverage the other funding, and to take that funding away from them would be a little bit like naming a dog Stay. It's very contradictory message there. Go out and raise your money, but we know if we cut your money, you can't raise your money. And, you know, they cause people to stay a little longer, maybe buy that extra meal. And, you know, when I was sitting on the city council, there was some question as to what would happen to that organization if they would cease to function. What would happen to that land? And you know, when something is a historical site, when something's an archaeological site, when something's a native burial ground, you're not going to put your marina there. You're not going to sell it for condominiums. It's going to be what it is in perpetuity. And so you might as well do what you can to keep it operating, keep people coming. Plus, it's another quiver another arrow in the quiver of the people across the street. When they go out and bid bus tours, why should we stop in Mitchell? Well, we have the Corn Palace. So, okay, that's great. What else do you have? And the Mitchell Prehistoric Indian Village is part of that. What else? Two last comments. One is on Mitchell Main Street and beyond. When I was sitting on the city council, I thought every place in town was important. But I thought the most important places in town were the approaches in and out of the city that tourists took, and Main Street, because that is the marquee of the city. And if you have well-paved streets, well-maintained homes, vibrant businesses, a vibrant downtown, you have an advertisement for the city of Mitchell. You know, when I was a kid and we went on vacation, Dad took color slide film. Then you took it in, you got it developed, and then we looked at that in the living room, and occasionally we inflicted it on relatives who were over for an event or whatever. But that's all the people who saw our photos. And you know, now there's Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and those go all around the world, and depending on, you know, who's having it, retweeting it, and you made reference to our little school board, that went viral. And, you know, people who would never have heard of Mitchell, South Dakota have now heard of Mitchell, South Dakota. So I think it's important that Main Street, in particular, be vibrant and strong. Those people passed a TIF, taxing themselves, and you don't want to be in the business of tearing buildings down, buying buildings, flipping buildings. And I think it would be important to maintain that partnership. The last thing I'm going to say is you're all listening to me, and I appreciate it, and you're all thinking, Mel, we agree with everything you say. We just don't have the money. This is what I propose, that you fund these groups at last year's level, even though you don't have the money, this way. You use a resolution, a motion, whatever it is, and you say, we're going to guarantee you the first 6 months of your money. Then in 6 months from now, we're going to look at the next quarter. And if the money's not there, well, maybe you get a prorated. Maybe you don't get any money at all. And that way, you're not reducing their funding 25%. Potentially, you could be saving yourself 50%. But you know, on July 1st, if times are bad, you don't tell the kids on July 1st, sweetheart, there's no Christmas. It's 6 months away. And who knows what we're going to look like 6 months, 9 months from now. So that's my little spiel. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to come up? Come on up.
Hello, thank you for your time. I'm Sheila Slater. I'm with the Friends Foundation, and I would like to second everything that Mr. Melson said. I'm also here to, I read over the comments and I saw them. We put in for subsidies, and I had a lengthy conversation with our board members today, and we decided that if we could ask the council to reconsider the funding of the other groups that we find are very imperative, like CASA and all the others mentioned before, we would be willing to withdraw our request for funding and try to fund ourselves.
Who are you with?
Mitchell Friends Foundation. Friends of the Public Library.
Thank you.
So we do also believe that it's imperative for the city and for the growth, and especially during a national crisis, that they have the outreach and people have the outreach and the services that they need. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Roswitha Kanz. I'm the clinical director at Dakota Counseling. Used to be Dakota Mental Health Mill. I wanted to share some numbers with you. As you apparently asked for some last time, at DCI we currently have 1,980 open clients. 54% of these open clients reside in the city of Mitchell. Another 3% are in rural Davidson County. So far this year, we've fielded 184 emergency after-hour phone calls. Now, these are calls that come in over the weekend, 2 o'clock in the morning, not during regular business hours. We have had 141 emergency after-hours requests for mental health evaluations by law enforcement. We have done a total of 74 QMHP evaluations. These are evaluations for people that need to be involuntarily committed to Yankton. We've not, obviously, laid off any staff because our service, the need for our services is increasing. We have applied for all small business loans, CARES Act, PPLs, that kind of stuff. Our nursing staff assisted clients to the tune of $750,000 last year in reduced or free medication. Without those medications, you would see even more people go to the hospital. I would just like to implore the City Council to please not cut us completely. Our services are needed more and more every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Emma DeVos. I'm on the board of Mitchell Main Street. Also to remind you of some numbers about what the organization does. As you know, we have a lot of events, and those events actually serve a lot of people that you may not be aware of. We have 600 people normally that come to our Wingapalooza, over 1,000 people normally to each of our First Fridays events. Obviously this year was a little bit different. We have Ladies' Day, which supports our small businesses. We sold 2,000 caramel apples this year and distributed another 1,000 to essential health workers. We serve about 1,000 children in our Kids Trick or Treat, another 400 to 600 children in our Christmas Shopping for Kids, and we also do the Parade of Lights. So if our funding is cut, we will not be able to deliver any of those events this year. So we are a community supporting organization. In addition to that, though, of course, we do have 108 members, and we do what we can to support them and make sure those businesses are successful. We have gained 12 new members this year in spite of COVID, which I hope would show that we are an organization that our members respect and value. We don't just do events, however. We provide training to help our businesses be more successful. Last year we provided social media training, and we're actually doing more of that and hoping to do some other subjects too that will help our businesses succeed. We have a revolving loan program that people can apply for, and they have been, and they are using to make improvements to their facades of their buildings, which is good for everybody. We like to support the other nonprofits with the events that we do, particularly First Fridays. We're responsible for the flower baskets downtown, and we have about 83,000 people that we reach through our Facebook page. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Revel Diggin. You heard from me last time. To clarify a few things from last time, there are other cities, I didn't have the list with me, that do fund their mental health centers. Yankton, Pierre, Huron, Watertown, Sioux Falls all help out their community mental health centers, all cities similar to us, I would say. And so far, like, we're asking for funding, of course. We've already had our budget cut from the city from $62,000 down to 25 or 35, whatever we're getting. So we've already experienced a pretty significant cut in funding over the years. Another thing, so like say 35,000, we can offer over 200 outpatient visits at that cost. So that's 200 visits some people either won't have to pay for or pay a reduced fee for. I can't even count the number of times on my hands that clients have come in and said, you know, I didn't come in the last 3 months because I couldn't afford it. Or I just had a patient today. I don't want to continue therapy because I can't pay for it. But they've moved mountains since they've gone to therapy. And for them not to come because they can't afford it.
Question for you. Do you go to the county with this? Because the county has a duty to provide some of this.
The county does.
Okay.
They do.
What percentage of your funding do you get from the county? Well, compared to what you're asking for from the city?
I think Davidson County gives us $13,000.
And you're asking the city for how much?
Whatever it was last year.
$30,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, over half of our clients are from the city of Mitchell directly. And then last year, our discounted services, that's not like our what we get from insurance or anything, was over $230,000 that we were able to help people out with the extra funding that you guys provide and whatnot. So I just wanted to make sure those numbers were known. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Cindy Gregg from the Prehistoric Indian Village, and I really don't have anything new to say to you folks because you've heard it all from me. But to the nonprofits out in the audience, I have a challenge for you all, and that is you all need to learn, if you haven't done so already, how to write grants, and we all need to work on getting these grants and work hard to fund for ourselves. I work real hard writing grants. And believe me, I had never written a grant before in my life until I went to work for the Indian Village. In the 10 years I've been there, I've raised over $500,000 for the Indian Village. This is something that's imperative. If you're going to work for a nonprofit, if you're going to run a nonprofit, writing grants is the single most important thing you can do to make that nonprofit, because as we have learned this year, we cannot always depend on our local governments to support us and to help us through tough times. This is the toughest time I've been through in the 10 years I've been through the government. I have lost, or the Indian Village, I have lost countless hours of sleep worrying about how we're going to survive the winter. And for all you nonprofits, if you need help learning how to write a grant, call me. The Indian Village's number is in the book, and I will be glad to help each and every one of you. Thank you, guys. I know you're going to try your hardest and do the thing that you think is the best for all of us.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, Captain Bill, Middendorf Salvation Army. I know we didn't ask for funds, but I know that the people we work with are the people that these guys work with. And, I mean, you guys know just as much as we do, there's a lot of hurting people right now. And so I just want you guys to remember that. Our numbers are through the roof: food pantry, feeding program, rental assistance, utility assistance. So yeah, I mean, you guys do what you need to do, but just know that this is affecting every nonprofit in town, not just the ones you're considering funding here. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of councilmen from the past, and a lot of these organizations, I mean they're all good, but I don't think the city should be a bank to these people. And a lot of them applied for money years ago for a short period of time, and they're still coming back 10, 15 years later getting the money. And my opinion is I think we should quit being a bank. It's time to not do it.
now's the time to discuss it if you have anything.
Okay. And all of the organizations deserve money, and I 100% believe that. And it affects all the nonprofits. However, if we spend a lot of money and raise taxes, it affects every person in town that is a property owner or that shops here or does anything here. Because if we raise everybody's taxes, they're going to, and it's a business or anything else, they're going to pass it on to everybody else. So looking at raising people's property taxes is thousands and thousands of people versus the number of nonprofits we have. But all the nonprofits do, to me, a wonderful job. And my view is I'd like to give them as much money as I can, but on the balance side of that is I don't want to ask for any more money from the assessment side than we did last year. And if I can balance that by either cutting something or moving or whatever, I have no problem saying give them X% or give them everything if I can balance and not ask the county assessment value to be higher than it was in 2020. And that's where I'm sitting. And I don't know what that number is. We had $120,000 in growth, and we were $90,000 over in the request based on the last, I believe Stephanie said last time, approximate numbers I'm saying. So that means I need to take of that $120,000, I need to take $90,000 and not ask for it because I want it to be the same. And if I do that, then how much money do I have and how much contingency money do I have? And that's where I'm trying to balance it because I have taxpayers on one side and I have nonprofits on the other. And I know it's not one-to-one of the ask and the mill levy and there are other things in there, but I would like to know that the amount I'm asking for property value is going to end up in a mill levy that is the same or less than it is currently. Because who's going to raise their hand that says, I'm going to raise taxes during a pandemic? Please raise your hand. But potentially that's what you're asking us to do. So that, if I can balance that out, and so if it's moving $90,000 one place so that I can use $90,000, or move $90,000 so I have $30,000 extra in one place and find some extra money, I'll give it all that extra money to the nonprofits. But I don't know what cuts or what things that would, information that would take in order to find that.
Would you like me to respond with what the property tax increase is?
Yeah, go ahead.
So at least answer that question. You guys can get to your debate after that. Last time we talked about that the CPI was, I'm pulling this up here, 1.7%. So that increase was 91,000. Growth is another 125.35, which is 2.25% growth. So the total property tax increase is 211,605.
The growth, though, is increase in property values with new buildings and
right, but it's
improvements.
still, you still take
It's
the
not a
total-
raise in the mill levy.
Nothing's going to raise the mill levy. That's the deal, because you take the, your mill levy might go down. It's just all based on the total dollars you certified divided by the value in the county.
Yep.
So you don't set your budget based on the mill levy, you set it based on the amount of taxes. Yep.
So Stephanie, when we met 2 weeks ago, the 91,000 was included
Right.
into our contingency. The 125 was not.
The 120,535 was not, but I did state in my overview to everyone that we did include it in this ordinance that's on for second reading.
Yeah,
And
so
it's
259, it went up to 5568719, correct?
I can't see that little. Thank you.
Mine's
Okay.
really big on my screen.
Okay.
There, right there. Yep.
Okay. So with including that other extra 120,000, where are we sitting right now with contingency?
With your contingent.
Was it, I see somewhere it was like 9?
Can I pull it over here?
I think it went up to 120 was put into contingency. We were
Can
at
I-
800,000, and that 120 put us to 920.
And you'll see your contingency is on your first page of that ordinance. Your first page of your appropriation ordinance shows the amount in contingency right there.
And last year we had how much in that account?
Hold on. Oh my goodness, you guys are way faster than me. 880, it sounds like. Yes. 882.
Right.
686.
My fear is that we've been living off the government for the last 8 months, the country has, and I think next year is going to be a year that's going to be a bad year, the way everything's going, because people are so used to getting free money that it's, not the organizations, but people in general, that when the money goes away, our taxes and everything, I have a feeling it's just going to be a bad year for everything next year.
I need to.
Kind of my thinking.
Yep. I maybe need to give one explanation in case there's anyone new listening online or in the audience. The reason why that contingency level is so high is if we were to have some property taxes that weren't paid because someone defaulted, or if sales tax doesn't come in at what we have it budgeted at, we would actually basically earmark some of that contingency money and not spend it to offset those revenue shortfalls so that we can ensure at the end of the year we still have a balanced budget. So that's just, you all know that, but that's just for anyone in the audience who might be hearing this for the first time so they understand how that fund can be used.
Yeah, and Kevin, I agree, but and it was said earlier, it's a tough time to be sitting in this place, but I think no matter what we do, depending on how this turns out in March, April, May, June, July next year, we might be making some really tough decisions whether we have any contingency or do any nonprofit funding at all. I mean, if foreclosures and other things happen and other stimulus money isn't there, worldwide things happen, it won't just be this municipal government, it'll be every municipal government sitting making those types of decisions.
I was just wanting to make sure I was clarifying that for everyone in the public. And then the other thing, just to keep in mind that for anyone else too that hasn't been hearing some of the discussions, is that we do anticipate we're going to be spending, I'm on the wrong sheet, hold on. We do anticipate that we're going to be spending some funds from reserve in some of these individual departments to balance. So we need to make sure that we're going to have $230,000 in E911 funds that we can apply, $287 in community services. And so I've also went through and we kind of figured out how much we need to have in that balance. And we've been kind of, and I've got that here, hold on. I don't function well up on the screen, I apologize. So I've been kind of earmarking what those potential revenue shortfalls are this year, because we're going to need that just to have your budget balance at the start of 2021. So as we've been saying for the last 8 months or whatever this has been, everything is very volatile and uncertain, but we're trying to put in some safeguards for, it's not going to protect you if you have another 30% revenue shortfall. We're still down on sales tax and entertainment tax. But at least we have some safeguards, so we're not having to go right to reserves as our first result.
What was our last report on sales tax you had updated for the city of Mitchell?
First and second penny, we were down 0.42%. Entertainment tax, we're still down close to 11%. We're going to be about $60,000 short of budget.
When this first came out, I made a comment, and somebody said we might be 30%. When the COVID just came out, we might be 30% down. And I made a comment in this meeting that if we could be 30% down right now, I'd take it by the end of the year. So seeing in the future is a guess. Yeah, it might be bad next year. We might find a vaccine, it might be better. I think we need to take care of the people that take care of Mitchell and promote Mitchell. And, you know, nobody likes taxes being down. Nobody likes not giving them money. But, you know, Mel made some interesting points, points I never thought of. You know, I just think we need to take care of them at this point.
I agree, Dan. I just feel like to not give these organizations funding, I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot. I don't think it comes as any surprise that that's how I feel. I, too, was impressed with Mel's thoughts, and you know, there has been some talk about a 25% reduction over last year's funding, but maybe we say come back in June, and if that goes, and if there's money available in June or July, that you come back and we see if there's money at that point, too. So that would be my request and my hope that we can do that. Which part? I would like to see us do, in my opinion, it would be great if we did 25% less than what we gave them last year, and then in July, we look, and if we still have the money for the other 25% to make us meet what we gave them last year, and they could come and ask for it if they were in that situation.
And then I'm just going to clarify as you guys are starting to talk about proposals, I think you need to make sure to state clearly what we're talking about too, because we've had 5 new funding applications this year, if you remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We haven't approved a new application in the 6 years I've been here, so I want to make sure you're not, you know, just make sure you're being clear in who we're funding at what level.
Are you talking about funding at last year's level or at this year's requested level?
Do you want to, my hope would be 25% less than last year's.
Because some of them didn't request the same as last year, they actually went down.
Exactly. And some went up. So if we just take 25% less than what we gave them last year, that seems to be a more fair way of doing it. Then those that already took the hit and said we'll give ourselves a self-imposed reduction, we're not further penalizing them, and we're kind of setting it at an equitable level for everybody.
Just trying to work.
$83,625.
This is the part that takes some time.
Well, that's 75%.
80.
And are you talking everyone who received funding this last year getting cut by that amount, or I just want to make sure no new applications?
No new. And if they didn't request it this year, like as an example, the municipal band did not ask for money this year, then we did not ask for an appropriation. What's that like?
Yeah, I'm just putting it in so everyone.
But last year they asked for 10,000, so you want them at 7,500.
Yeah, which is why we wouldn't do them another one, because they used last year.
Okay, so if you're looking, what about CVB out of entertainment tax? We already have that reduced somewhat.
I think we leave CVB and Mitchell Area Development the way we have them funded. And the regional, sorry, I missed that. Poor David Lambert, he's going to think I've got something against him. And regional.
Okay, I think.
So Stephanie wouldn't, part of her.
So it's 83,625?
So part of Susan's discussion on coming back in July next year, I guess my question is, just to try to make it more of a definitive answer on things, or at least a final number. Obviously, we all can always come back and do a contingency of some sort. I mean, just to the point where we can make sure whatever we approve here tonight, we have it sort of a fine number. It's boom, it's done. We agree on it. If we decide to come back, you know, then we can take a look at doing that on our own kind of volunteer time kind of thing, you know, as in,
right.
Let's take a look at it again. I don't want it to be, we are going to come back. If the money's there, we'll take a look at it. I think within ourselves, we can see if we can do some additional funding amongst these groups.
Yeah, I agree with that, Marty. I think that at least it leaves the door open if if there's money available and if they're finding themselves in a tough spot, that would be, they would have the potential of coming forward, but there's no guarantee one way or the other.
So this would take
So-
83,000 out of contingency.
Yep.
83,600.
I'm just going to say one statement. Just from a policy recommendation, when you pass your budget, that's really setting the program of work for the upcoming year. I know Mel had talked about reserving some of that. I think you keep that in contingency because that way there isn't an expectation until council authorizes the rest of that expectation so that staff isn't getting a request to have to deny something that's maybe shown in the budget, but you haven't finally authorized it. So that way it just makes it clear that you've authorized this much so far. Any additional authorizations are going to go through council. It's going to be listed on a public meeting. You're going to take formal action as a group.
And that's exactly what I was driving
Yeah.
at. Exactly my point of it, just where we can have a definitive answer what we're going to approve, and then we'll, if we come back, you know. And as Steve, you know, echoing what Steve said, there's all these allocations that are out here, these entities are all definitely entitled to some type of funding. But we all know that, you know, we've all had to make cuts. I mean, we've asked our department heads to make a lot of cuts, and every, you know, citizen in the United States has made cuts everywhere. So, you know, with you being what you said, Susan, jumping onto those that were on here, but last year, the new requests, I think we just need to move past it as in not being part of it, as you stated. And I'm definitely on board with doing a 25% reduction. I think it shows that we all are making a strive to do some kind of cutting somewhere along the line, and I think it shows good for everybody on board to do that. So I'll support, if we get to that part of voting, I'll support a 20% reduction in those that were allocated money in 2020, like you stated. So
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Just because you are in the middle of a public hearing on the actual ordinance, I'm going to give you some additional details that we could add into the motion. I hope that's okay. That you would be reducing contingency by $83,625. You'd be increasing culture and recreation by $21,000. You'd be increasing economic development. Sorry, I forgot this one here. Oh, my word. Can anyone read that? Hold on.
28.
Thank you. 26,250. Health and welfare, you'd be increasing 36,375. And then when we go back, we will adjust the departmental budgets to list the funding for Dakota Counseling at 26,250. LifeQuest, 6,750. Mitchell Area Safe House, 3,375. CASA, 2,250. Exchange Club, 7,500. Mitchell Prehistoric Indian Village, 11,250. Mitchell Area Development stays at 167. Mitchell Main Street Beyond at 26,250. Regional stays at 30,000 and CBB stays at 250. Correct? Yes. Okay. That is right?
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay, I've got,
So I'm going to second
Second
Susan's
that.
motion.
Yep.
For
Motion
discussion.
by Mrs.
Yep.
Starks and a second by Mr. Barrington.
okay, so the mechanical workings of the payout, do we pay these quarterly typically, or we pay some of them in one lump sum?
We have left it out up to those individual organizations how they want to request it. In the past, they could do it in one lump sum or quarterly. If you want to give different direction as council, I think you're welcome to do that.
I just want to make sure that if we get to the point next summer of additional requests, we make sure we know who has taken what payments up to that point. Okay.
She's got that down.
Pot CPA will, I don't mean in a bad way.
Because somebody, you know, they need it in different timing.
Further discussion.
Yeah, I've got another point. So, see if I can read. Where am I? Economic Development, Mitchell Area Development Corp, is it 167? Yeah. Okay. With the changes across the street, I just want to make sure, and I've received information from Becky and through Jason Stabner through another area of their plan for reorganization and/or hiring for somebody from the Development Corp and the Chamber. Their plan kind of goes from now until the first of the year, they hope. And what I would like to do, I'd like to, I'm leaving the same amount in there, but I want to put a review time after the first of the year to visit with them on their plan for the Mitchell Area Development Corp, $167,000.
Okay, so we first have a motion by, okay.
But does this
so
fit inside that to move it
I think-
over in the column?
First, what we need to do is act on Mrs. Sharks' motion, correct? And then you can come back and
Okay.
discuss this after that, after we find out what's going to happen with that motion.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That's fine.
Is that right, Mr. Johnson?
That's my recommendation.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion?
I'm just going to mention one thing, and obviously on both sides, very good arguments and very good discussion. I think the haircut at 25% is a good start, but I think it needed to be a little bit more, but that wasn't the motion. I'm going to vote against it, but I wasn't going to go down to 0, but I thought 25 should have been a little bit more. And again, we're not saying no to 100%. We're saying, let's make sure we have the money before we start giving it out. So we'll see if the 25 gets through, and if not, then we'll circle back around and have more discussion.
Okay. Further discussion?
I was thinking more in line of a 30%.
Well, right now we have the motion at 25, so.
What's 5%? What is 5% of this? I know. Okay, just a second. Let me think about this. Less than $5,000.
$20,000. Okay.
Can I convince you?
All right. So the motion is to cut the 2020 request by 25%, and that's the numbers reflected. So $83,625 will come out of contingency to fund this. So we reduce contingency by that much.
Numbers up, figured up now. So your new contingency number is 836,910.
Okay.
Your new health and welfare is 127,297. Your new culture and recreation is 101. And the new economic opportunity is 223,250. Someone check my eyesight. And it looks like we still balance, so I think we're good.
Okay.
Did your
Further discussion?
Yeah, it was 245. Yep. Okay, so we're still good. We
All
did
right,
math right.
roll call vote, please. The motion is to reduce the 2020 request, in other words, what we paid them this year, by 25%. And if as we go through the year, if we find out we have enough, we will increase it.
You will
And that
open up
doesn't
a
even
new
need to be-
application
Yeah, there you go.
timeframe.
That doesn't even need to be in the motion.
Oh, it doesn't have to be, okay, there you go. It's not in the motion then. We'll reduce it by 25%.
83,625.
Does that answer your question?
I can pull these up one more time here so you guys can look at them again. Oh, that is up here. So you can see that with the changes, then you've got Dakota Counseling at 26,250. In 2020, they were at 35,000. Life Quest was at 9,000. It brings them down to 6,750. Mitchell Area Safe House in 2020 was 4,500. It brings them down to 3,375. CASA was 3,000. It brings them down to 2,250. Exchange Club was 10,000. It brings it down to 7,500. Indian Village was at 15,000. Brings them down to 11,250. Mitchell Area Development, you didn't make a change to that one. Mitchell Main Street was at 35,000, brings them down to 26,250. Didn't make a change to Regional, and didn't make a change to CVB. How's that?
Okay.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Sabers.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Barrington,
Aye.
Allen. Sharp. Aye. Smith.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, now you want to
Okay,
discuss.
now, on the MADC amount, I just want to make sure we have a review of that once that executive team at MADC and CVB has their, I'll call it their organization and investigation for hiring in order, which they anticipate to be around the 1st of January. And so my proposal is, like we did with some of the others, is it's leaving that 167 there, but to put a review.
So leave it in contingency
So-
until it's reviewed? Is that a motion? Are you making a motion, or?
I think it needs to be a motion to,
Yeah, if you're going to move it into contingency, that would have to be a motion because you're amending the ordinance.
and that, so then in January, they, approximately January would report to us, and that same $167,000 would be, as much as $167,000 would be available.
So it'll sit
For
in
that.
contingency until a decision is made, and we just have a discussion on the reorganization.
Correct.
Okay?
I have another
Need something
idea,
else added to it, or
maybe.
idea for that?
I'm just going to give you a suggestion to consider while you're discussing these. The other option that you could do is you could direct staff to notify them that this funding will need final approval by council after January 1st, specifically for MADC.
Yes.
Because regardless if you were going to write the check to MADC, it would just have to be used for economic development opportunities.
Yep.
So at least then it's not sitting in your contingency, and it'll be a little bit easier to move forward with that money afterwards. But if you're specifically directing, take action as council to direct staff to do that.
Yeah, I would, that was my intent.
All right, sum that motion up, would you, Ms. Alwine?
To direct staff to notify MADC that the funding will need final authorization after January 1st.
Okay,
Prior to approval?
we have a motion.
That's
I'll
my
second
motion.
that.
And a second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion?
I'm the liaison to the Development Corp., and I know that there's a very good plan in place, and the board members are active, and I see Jason right here walking up to the microphone. And I got confidence that the plan is going to come together, but we all know that there's no director at the Development Corp. Right now, and the board is working hard to fill that, and we've got a few months before now and January 1st, and so even though we're going to basically have setting aside, I've got a feeling that it's going to come together and we will be okay. So Jason.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate your comments, Steve. As we start the process, we're going to hire consultants. There'll be some fees associated with that. There's also fees in recruiting. Any extra money we won't spend, not for its intended purpose. And if it comes back where we don't use it all, I spoke with Jeff last Friday, I believe, we had asked for a reduction next year. I mean, we're just going through this transition now, so it's not, we want to get the right person in place, we want to get the right structure in place. If you want to put those caveats, I understand, but that's our intention, so.
Thank you. Further discussion? Anybody else wish to address it out in the audience? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Sharp. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, so where are we at now? Second reading?
I've got one other question,
Go ahead.
and we're talking cuts and other things. One thought that came up, and I tried to allude to it with Terry earlier, of we have our annual sidewalk installation, and in the time of COVID, maybe some of those people don't necessarily have the money to spend on sidewalk. And I know there's always a city component for curb and gutter and right-of-way work for all new sidewalks. And if we delayed that a year, we could defer that city, whatever that city amount is, to also help where we are. I just wanted to throw it out to see what appetite was there. I talked with a couple people. They said, hey, if you lose a year of sidewalks, you never get it back. But I don't know if sidewalks will be completed in the city in anybody's lifetime in this room. Kind of the same as our cast iron pipe and asbestos sewer line replacement won't be completed anytime in the lifetime of anybody in this room. But just wanted to see what people thought about doing that, especially in this time and looking at what 2021 might bring us.
We did that once before, I believe, that the economic downfall that we had in 2009, 10, 11, we delayed it. I believe Terry Johnson's still here or not? No, he got out of here. Well, anyway, I believe we delayed it for 1 year or maybe 2. One for sure. And it did help some of them that they didn't have the funds to do it.
This would be more of an item for discussion though, right? Because it really doesn't, well, I suppose it could fall into.
Somewhere in the budget, there's a 2021 city money for sidewalk. I just don't know what that number is.
Assessment fund, right? Oh, street and sidewalk, okay. Yep.
Yeah, so curb and gutter and driveways and landscaping, at least some landscaping, some of that split with that type of stuff. But it's, I think at one point, at least when they did Vine Street, that year it was, the city's portion was close to $100,000 during that year. And $100,000 makes a difference in what we're talking about here.
Steve, can you clarify, are you wanting to know what the city has budgeted for sidewalk for next year, or?
No, so so of the sidewalk plan for private residences, what is the city's component of curb and gutter, landscaping, and right-of-way portions of that?
Aprons, I think, are
Yep.
responsibility too.
Yep, so all the corners and those types of things, the city has a part of that.
So currently for next year, our city sidewalk
Yeah, we're
projects
not-
are on Norway
Yeah.
and Raleigh.
Right here.
And that is a project that we have a $400,000 grant with. Of that, off the top of my head, I believe there is $333,000 to be assessed. Now,
Start again?
Yeah, 330, yeah.
I believe.
And that's our only sidewalk project
Yeah.
next year?
Correct.
Oh.
We're-
That's what I was trying to get at.
Because
Never
of
mind.
Because of COVID, we were planning to hold off on assessment projects,
Yeah.
except for what we have the grant for.
And I'm all for keeping those ones going.
Satisfied?
That's why I was asking, because I know that we didn't have another sidewalk line. One clarifying question, when you said that you wanted to reassess as of January 1st, now, the previous director of economic development was also the director overseeing CVB and regional, so am I giving the same message to all three, or
No,
just MADC?
just the MADC. Did we vote on this?
No, yeah, we voted on it.
I just wanted to make sure that you were just talking about MADC since they
You
oversee
didn't
all
want
three.
to give the money away if you were telling her to hold it.
Just MADC.
Okay. That's the way I interpreted what you said. All right.
Steve, I
So-
don't mean to beat a dead horse on this one either, but remember that the assessments usually go out the year following, so. Right.
Yes. Okay,
Got that
back to
already.
second reading. We need a motion to approve second reading, correct? Because what we've done so far is subsidies.
What you did is you amended the
And-
ordinance, was your first
Right.
motion.
Yep, they did the 25% cut, they did the direction to staff on MADC, and that's it. So if
So
you
we have
do
not
the
moved on second
You
reading.
need a second reading, and then you need the motion to adopt.
As amended.
Right. Unless you want to talk more and do more work
No,
in the...
I'll move to place on second reading.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to beat this further? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion by Mr. Rice to adopt, second by Mr. Allen to adopt. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Roll call.
Barrington. Allen. Chart.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Motion carries. We've adopted an appropriation ordinance. We're adjourned.